Hello, this is Dean Phoenix with another video about the Final Fantasy X capturing process, and this time it's going to be capturing Inside Sin. Now before you can get to the Inside Sin area, you have to defeat the Left Fin, Right Fin and Sin core bosses, and those are pretty straightforward bosses, especially if your party is powerful. I'm just going to skip over those because I don't really like them as boss fights, and maybe we'll come to do a video on them afterwards, but there's not really a lot to it if your party is particularly powerful. So this video is going to focus on the capturing once we get into Inside Sin, and there's a bit of preparation that you should do before you challenge the Sin bosses and before you get to that area. Now this is a complete luxury, so if you don't have the 100k to buy a 4-slot weapon for somebody, that's absolutely fine. You may have got a 4-slot weapon as a drop as well, so just bear that in mind. But basically what we're going to do is make a Silent Strike, Dark Strike weapon, but with the touch abilities as well. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Dark Touch and Silence Touch on the weapon, so just buy the echo screens and the eye drops for that from any normal vendor like Rin or on the airshop. And you need to put the touch abilities on first, because you cannot put strike on and then touch, but you can put the Silence Touch and Dark Touch on first and then Dark Strike and Silent Strike after. Now what this does is it makes like a super dark, super silence weapon, so that if you hit an enemy that is susceptible to blindness or silence with that weapon, they will pretty much always get blinded or silenced by it. It's very useful for some of the enemies, and in particular the Monoliths in Inside Sin and the Omega Ruins, so I'm going to show that a little later. I also put the Gambler's Spirits and the Shadow Gems to the top of my inventory, because those are a very useful mix. One Gambler's Spirit with a Shadow Gem, and we'll be using that a little bit later on. Now one of the other things that you should do is you should go and get all of your rewards. I've just got 99 Mega Phoenixes there. I will leave a link to a very useful Jegger.com page that has all of those rewards on there that you get for the Monster Arena capturing. If you've captured all of the enemies in 10 of each enemy in all of the areas up until the Cavern of the Stolen Faith, at this point you should only have Inside Sin and Omega Ruins left. So you'll get all of these same rewards that I'm getting. You can use the Mega Phoenixes to customize Auto Phoenix on armors and make a start on the Ultimate armors for your main party. You also get a few very useful things like Petrify Grenade, because we'll need at least one person to have a stone-proof armor for Inside Sin, again for the Monoliths, because they're a really irritating enemy. And you also get some really good stuff, like you should get 99 Gambler's Spirits, as you're going to see in a moment. Now they customize SOS Overdrive, but we don't need SOS Overdrive for anything, because we're going to use better versions of it if we do it more efficiently, which if you're following the walkthrough you will do. So we can use those Gambler's Spirit, and that's why we put them to the top of the inventory, because they will be a staple item for using Riku's most powerful mixes. And in particular we're going to be using Black Hole for some of the very high vitality enemies, some of the very high HP enemies in the Omega Ruins and in Inside Sin. So one of the things you also might want to consider is making a start on your superb armors, so like the endgame armors. And here I bought a Tetra Shield, so that's 4 empty slots for Tidus, and you're actually going to put on the Auto Haste ability using the 99 Chocobo Wings you get as a reward from the Thunder Plains, if you haven't already. I have mentioned it a little earlier in the guide, so that's absolutely fine if you've done that already. So I put Auto Haste and probably Auto Phoenix on there as well. And that is extremely useful because Tidus is very powerful, and having him constantly hasted is very useful. You can also put on Auto Protect, because the endgame items, armors for everybody, should be Auto Haste, Auto Phoenix, Auto Protect, and then either Stone Proof or Ribbon. So you can put on Auto Protect as well. I actually wouldn't recommend doing just yet, because it does actually interfere with the fastest method of beating Greater Sphere. If you're only going to get one set of ribbon armor, then you can put Stoneproof on there as well, and save the 99 Dark Matters you get later for making a ribbon armor for Rikku. So that's a consideration as well. Now you want to make sure that you go to Macalania before you approach Sin and do the boss fights, and power up all of these celestial weapons that you have the sigils for. So if you're not doing the lightning dodging for Lulus or anything like that, I would totally appreciate why you're not doing that. But the one that's absolutely crucial is God Hand, and it has break damage limit and triple overdrive, and this is extremely useful for using the Victor overdrive mode to make sure that every 2 fights Rikku has overdrive, and she can use the Black Hole overdrive with Mix on the very high HP enemies, which we're going to come on to in a little bit. Now you see here that I've actually got everybody's Celestials. Assuming that you got Anima and you didn't miss any Destruction Sphere treasures, you should be able to get Yuna's very easily. Auron's is virtually unmissable, and then the rest just depends on which of the side quests and mini games that you did. So you'd be able to get Masamune very easily and power that up. Wakka's is Blitzball if you wanted to do that, and then the lightning dodging is Lulu's, the Chocobo catcher is Tidus's, and the butterfly game is Kimahri's. So upgrade whatever of the Celestials you've got, as they can be quite useful. Now in the actual Inside Sin, Armor Break is a very useful ability, so I'd recommend that Tidus or Wakka, at least one of them, has started going through Auron's grid using either a teleport sphere or just your return sphere and your S levels and get as close to it as possible, because it's very useful for one of them to have Armor Break, because you can use that on the Geminis. So these Geminis, they always appear together, and you can actually inflict darkness on them with the Super Darkness weapon with Dark Touch and Dark Strike if you've made that, which will cause them to miss their attacks. You can also do the same with Adamantoise, so you can inflict darkness on it, but also you can armor break it, which makes the capturing much quicker. So I'd recommend that you either use Auron to armor break, or you have Tidus or Wakka learn it like they did in my game here. Now be very careful if you are fighting Behemoths, because after you have captured the first 10, they will start using Meteor as a final attack when you no longer catch them, and it's supremely powerful. So you need to either have auto life or just run from them if you don't think that you'll be able to survive Meteor, because you don't want to lose all of your capturing progress. So keep track of how many of those that you have actually caught. Now these are the Monoliths, and these are the really irritatingly difficult enemies. Now one of the things that you may want to do is use that Silence Touch, Silent Strike weapon to always inflict silence on them, and that will stop them from using their Pharaoh's Curse counter. If you hit them when they're not silenced, it will use Pharaoh's Curse. If you don't make the Silence Touch, Silent Strike weapon, then just use the Use command and a Silence Grenade and silence them before you start attacking them. Then you should be able to capture them relatively easily. You also want to make sure that if they ever get a turn, so if it comes to their turn, you need to plan for that and make sure that you have somebody with stone-proof armor in the party, because they can use an attack called Breath that will petrify your entire party. So it's better if they don't get a turn and if you silence them to stop Pharaoh's Curse counter, but you must have a stone-proof armor on somebody in the party if they get a turn. Now these are Greater Marlborough, and these ones that are inside Sin won't get an automatic first strike or ambush like they will in Omega Ruins, but they're still very dangerous, and you must make sure that you provoke them. So Tidus should learn Provoke, he learns it quite early in the game, and then keep him in the party. So they must have had somebody use Provoke on them, and that person must be in the party for all of their turns. And what that does is it stops them from using Bad Breath. Now, Bad Breath is a really irritating and dangerous attack, and it causes, the problem is that it causes darkness and poison and confusion, so you may be unable to, and berserk as well, so you'll be unable to attack, and also you'll be taking poison damage and you may be hitting yourself, so you need to provoke them to stop that. Now this is the rarest and strongest enemy in Inside Sin, and it's called Barbatos. Now usually Rikku will have her overdrive, because she'll get it once every 2 fights if she has the Victor overdrive mode, which she should be using for this area, and the God Hand celestial weapon powered up. But if you happen to fight 2 of them in a row like I have here, she may not have the overdrive. So, and you'll see here how difficult they can be to beat, because even though my party is very strong, these things have 95,000 health. So you can beat them down with your Celestials. Just make sure that you may be aware of how much damage you're doing and don't accidentally kill them. If they are rare and you don't want to be looking for more of them than you have to. Then switch back to your capture weapons and just beat them down. If you use Armor Break on them, they will use a counter called Mortar, which is very powerful, so you want to try and avoid that, but you can Armor Break them if your party is strong enough to survive it. Now, the normal tactic that you want to use against these things, and one of my favourite tactics that saves tons of time and a lot of hassle, is the reason that we needed God Hand. So if you have God Hand and it's powered up, Rikku will be able to break the damage limit, and she will get overdrive every 2 fights with Victor. So what you do is she uses an overdrive of Gambler's Spirit combined with a Shadow Gem, which is Black Hole. And what that does is it inflicts 93.75% of an enemy's health without ever killing them. so this will let you get it in range of using capture attacks on it. So you don't want to be doing that protracted fight every time. This is what you want to be doing. You save Riku's overdrive for when you actually find these Barbatos enemies, and then make sure she has a switch to God Hand, and then use the mix. And what you need to do is you need to use a Shadow Gem with a Gambler's Spirit, which will do Black Hole. So what's this? This is with break damage limit, and she will instantly get 89k of damage, and so that will put them in range of just a couple of hits from Tidus and Waka with their capture weapons. Now you can use that technique of using Black Hole on the Master Tonberries as well, which we'll explain in the Omega Ruin section, and also on the Monoliths. So if you silence them and then use Black Hole, you'll be able to take those out in just a couple of attacks as well. So I would mainly recommend in this area though, you save them just for Barbatos and use it on him as a much quicker way of capturing them. As you can see, you also got a massive amount of AP because I was so powerful from the way I was doing my playthrough. I was able to overkill most of the enemies, and so whilst I was looking for Barbatos, I got a ton of other EXP from killing the other enemies and capturing the other enemies. So they all have 60 plus levels, and Rikku with the double AP from God Hand is 89. So they'll be extremely powerful for the Omega Ruins. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more videos.